This video is on the square cube law. When I discovered this, when I was doodling at work one day, this is actually what sparked my interest in mathematics, especially applied mathematics. So I was sitting at work one day and I was just playing around with exponents and I ended up coming up with this. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something kind of important. So I Googled cube square law and it came up as square cube law, and it was discovered by somebody a few hundred years ago. So I was pretty excited to figure this out. And then after this, I started trying to figure out Pythagorean theorem and then pi. And so then I decided to start this channel. It's just kind of an online journal of the things that I've discovered that I didn't find anywhere else. So this is what I got. So when I was just playing with my exponents at work, and I came up with I made up a cube here, just one by one by one. And then I realized if you want to make it twice as tall, then you're also going to have to make it twice as wide and twice as deep to still make it a cube. Otherwise, if you just make it longer, then you end up with a snake. So basically, if this is like a bug that's 1 centimeter tall and you want to make it 2 centimeters tall, you're going to make it 8 times heavier for it to retain its regular shape. So, so if you look at the cubes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8's hidden behind. So, spoiler alert on this, you won't be able to enjoy any sci-fi movies where you have giant robots running around cities, or giant gorillas or lizards or whatever that are taller than skyscrapers. And you won't be able to enjoy movies where giant spiders are running around mazes eating people and such, because this will just kind of ruin everything. But yeah, I think this is just super cool stuff to learn and figure out, and it's just a lot of fun to know this stuff, I think. So here's the applications. For anybody that's seen these videos before, I routinely reshoot my videos many times because I'll post it, and then after several weeks or months, I'll just decide I'm kind of annoyed with all the little errors and redundancies and tedious math. So I reshoot this stuff to clean them up and get rid of the errors and trim them down to make them a little bit more concise. And so anyways, that's what this is. It's another reshoot. So anyway, so we've got here, the mass went from 1 to 8 now, just by making it twice as big. So you could imagine if this was just a bug, what would happen if you made it like 100 times bigger. So instead of just 2 centimeters tall, you made it like 1 meter tall. Okay, now the area, the area is what determines the strength of its muscles, its bone, its muscles, the tendons, the wing. The larger the wing is, then the more weight it can support as it flies through the air. So the area is just going to be the square of it. So if this is a muscle, bone, or ligament, or whatever, or wing, it's just going to be 2 by 2. So it's just going to be 2 squared, which is 4. So now it's 8 times heavier, but only 4 times stronger. And that gives a ratio of 2 to 1. So by making it twice as large or twice as tall, we've now given it 1/2 the strength, or made it twice as weak. Here's the relationship right here, just n squared for the area. I should have wrote that somewhere. This is area over mass. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so here we go. Area over mass. The area is n squared over the mass n cubed. You're going to get 1 over n as the relative strength. So if you make it 10 times taller, you've now given it 1/10 of the regular strength, or relative strength, I meant. I also thought about the possibility if a longer muscle could actually make somebody stronger or make an animal stronger, because the muscles are made up of these sarcomeres here, which is your actin and myosin. This actin is like these little knobs, or these little hands that reach out and grab on these other little knobs and kind of ratchet it up, and that's what causes muscle to contract. So I thought if a muscle's 10 times longer, then you would have 10 times the number of these little hands here to reach out and grab, so it would make it 10 times stronger. But if you have 10 times the number of hands on this rope and you're pulling this rope up, unless that rope gets any wider, the rope's just going to break. So the rope would represent something like, well, you could get a muscle tear, or it could represent the width of a tendon. So basically, you got to make these muscles and tendons and bones a lot wider so they can handle a lot more stress. This also explains why the smaller something is, then the easier it can climb and fly. So this is why things like little bugs and lizards can climb so easily, and squirrels, and why birds are small. In addition, bugs and birds have very little water in them compared to us terrestrial animals. and water is relatively heavy. I also cringe a little bit now whenever I see a picture of a Pegasus, which is a big flying horse, because horses are made to run, so they have these just, huge muscles throughout their whole body and in their legs, so they can run really fast. But when they're flying, then they have all those muscles are worthless because it all has to be supported by just the area of a wing. And plus, horses are huge. All that muscle doesn't do anything to help it fly. It just kind of gets dragged behind and, dangles down below the wings. Birds are also designed to fly because of their little twiggy bird legs that don't weigh hardly anything, and giant chest muscles to support the wings so they can fly. And this also explains why you see spider monkeys in trees and gorillas on the ground. Gorillas can have a huge amount of body mass, huge amount of muscle, but when it comes to climbing, what really matters is the area of the forearm, because that's what gives you the strength in your fingers to be able to climb things. And so something like a gorilla or a bodybuilder that can have just huge amounts of muscle everywhere, throughout the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings and calves, all that muscle isn't doing anything to help you climb. It's just, just hanging there as dead weight that has to be supported by just the area of your forearm. If something's really large, like a commercial airliner, it's going to have a wing that's disproportionately large compared to what you'd see in nature, and or the plane is going to have to fly a lot faster to get more lift. So here's the matter of torque. This is what explains why spiders or bugs look the way that they do, and elephants look the way that they do. So torque is your force times your distance. So here's your nut right here on a bolt. Wrench is turning or twisting. Force times the distance of the handle gives you your twisting or your torque. Okay, so we take our bug right here. You take the mass right here, which is n cubed, n times n times n. You multiply that times n for the length of the leg. So say if this is just a 1 centimeter tall bug, this could all be 1. So 1 cubed, and then 1 is the length of the leg. So the strength of this little hair-like leg right here on this daddy long leg spider is going to be n squared. And then the mass will be n cubed, and then you have to multiply that times the torque, which is the length right here, and that'll be n. So you're going to end up with, this is the strength times mass times the distance. You're going to end up with n cubed times n into the fourth. So you'll end up with n squared over n to the fourth. This is just 1 over n squared, and that is your strength to torque ratio right there. So if you make something 10 times heavier, then it'll be 1/100th of the strength when you include the torque with these legs coming out. Just think of all the force pushing down on this mass because of gravity. So there's your force pushing down like on the wrench, and then this will be, the leg will be like the length of the wrench handle right there. So yeah, the more massive it is, then the more force is pushing down, creating that moment of torque right there. Take something 1 centimeter tall, turn it into 100 centimeters tall, so 1 meter. So this little 1 centimeter spider becomes 1 meter tall, so about the size of your waist, like a large dog. Then you'll end up with 1 over 100 squared, 1 over 10 thousandths. So it'll have a relative strength with its legs coming out of 1/10,000ths. So that spider isn't going to do a very good job running around a maze eating people. I think it'll just lay on the floor and kind of quiver a little bit. So what you have to do to correct for this with these little hair-like legs, you got to move the legs in and make them much wider. So here's your spider. Move the legs underneath, make them a lot wider, and you'll end up with something like a dog. I tried to show a dog ear right there, but then you end up with these wider legs right there. And if this was an elephant, then those legs have to get really wide, and of course be underneath. This is cooling and heating. So this is surface area to mass ratio. Here's your mass of, the surface area is going to be n times n, so it's the area, times 6 sides. Because I conveniently made everything a cube. So yeah, in real life, you're not going to have such neat models here, but this is just a toy model to give us an idea. Okay, so you got your area, which is going to be n times 6 sides for the cube. You got 6n squared right here. Mass will equal n times n, which is n cubed right there. So there's your area, there's your mass. You're going to end up with 6n squared over n cubed. That'll give you 6 over n. And this is the surface area to mass ratio if animals look like cubes. So yeah, animals are going to be more rounded. That'll cut back on the surface area quite a bit. So using the formula 6 over n, I have a cube here that's 1 in each dimension. That's 6 over 1. So it's a 6-to-1 ratio of surface area to mass. So it'll heat and cool pretty fast, relatively speaking. Make it 10 times larger. You're going to have 6 over n, which will be 6/10, which will be 3/5. I almost called that 60%, but I'm not comparing percentages because that's not 60% of anything really. So it's going to be 0.6. And then what I can do is take this 6 compared to 0.6. So the surface area to mass ratio, when I take a ratio of those ratios, 6 divided by 0.6 gives you 10. So that means the little cube has 10 times the surface area to mass ratio. And draw a little line across that. That means it will heat and cool 10 times faster. And this is also why on the nature shows I've heard that cold climates favor large animals because they're just really big, so they heat and cool a lot, or they cool down a lot slower. This also explains why little kids can only stay in a steam room for just a few minutes before they overheat, but larger adults can stay in for a really long time. So that's pretty much it.